Morning. If you're watching this, this is World Geography Unit 5, Population Geography. It covers the SOLs of 14C, all of SOL 15, and all of SOL 16. Okay? You can follow along with the PowerPoint. You might have to do split screen. You can see this one a little better than usual, but you might have to follow along. Let's see. Yeah, you might have to pull up the PowerPoint split screen to follow along with it. Or you can pull up the notes, fill those out as we go, and then go back to the PowerPoint. It's really up to you. It's a choose your own adventure kind of lesson. So, population geography. We're starting with the characteristics of human populations. Okay? Characteristics of human populations. So, first one is birth and death rates. Okay? This can be because of war. And talking about the death rates. War, disease, migration, whatever. So this is referring to how many people are born and how many people die per 1,000 persons. Okay, it's not that, okay, one person dies, your death rate's 1. Okay? If only one person dies per 1,000, that would make your death rate 0.01. 0.001. Yeah, I think it's 2 zeros, no 1. Anyway, whatever. Birth rate is similar to total fertility rate. Okay, the total fertility rate is the expected number of children born per woman in her childbearing years. So if on average a woman is expected to have 3 kids, okay, and you have 1,000 women, that's 3,000 children expected to be born a year. Okay? Now, that's not what they go by. They go by the birth rate, how many are actually born. Does that make sense? Developing countries have both of these, high death rates and high birth rates. Okay, but we went over developed and developing 2 weeks ago, or was that last week? I think that was 2 weeks ago. Last week was culture, right? Or was last week economics? Last week was economics, culture was the week before.
I think so.
So it was last week we went over that. All these start to run together. Anyway, age distribution. How many young people versus how many old people? Okay? Usually you see this as like a pyramid, okay? And the ages are listed from bottom to top. Usually male are on the left, female on the right, and it goes out to how many. Okay? Usually it starts out wide and then narrows as you go up because, people die. Good? Male-female distribution. How many males are there versus how many females? That one's super easy. Life expectancy is how long a person will live. Life expectancy is longer in developed countries. This is mainly due to better medical care. Statistically speaking, women live longer than men because men do more dumb things. For example, there's a huge pine tree in my parents' backyard. I mean, thing's got to be 80, 90 foot. Huge. Covered in poison oak. I mean, thing's terrible. My mom's wanted it cut down for years. Okay? My dad's argued it for years. Finally, my dad gave in. He hired a guy to cut it down. Guy started yesterday. Okay? Guy's not using a truck. He is climbing up in the tree himself with a chainsaw and just cutting sections of the tree down.
Yeah.
Okay? Right. But the guy was cutting the tree until 9 o'clock last night. Cutting down the tree with a chainsaw in the dark where it's covered in poison oak.
That's not.
Okay? Statistically speaking, women live longer than men. That is why. Make sense? Awesome. Let's look at some charts, some maps. So this is birth rate. Highest we get on this chart, and this was in 2017. is 35 to 45 births per thousand. That's mainly in Africa, and I believe that is Turkmenistan or Tajikistan. One of the stands, okay, right here. The rest of them are in Africa. You get to more developed countries such as the United States. That's 10 to 15. Some places in Europe is as low as 6, such as Spain. Between 6 to 10 babies born per 1,000 people a year.
How come in more developed countries the birth rate is lower?
Why is it lower?
Yeah.
Because insurance. Okay? One, babies are expensive. Plain and simple. Okay? Usually you want to be financially stable before you have a kid. Otherwise, people realize here, the more babies you have, the more money goes to the babies, and the more likely you are to get into financial issues. Okay? That's why it's not very common to see there are families, and I'm not talking bad about families that have multiple kids, but you don't see many huge families that have 10, 15 kids anymore. Okay? Whereas 100 years ago, it wasn't rare to have a family that had 7 to 10 kids. Families were bigger because the kids were cheaper, both parents weren't working, and there wasn't access to as much health care, such as birth control. Okay? The darker countries with the lower birth rates have access to medical care, including birth control. Therefore, there's not as many children as there are in countries that don't have access to health care. Plus here, infant mortality rate's really high. So a lot of babies die. So they have more kids because the kids are more likely to die. Does that make sense? So if you have more kids, it's more likely one of your kids will live to adulthood than here, where barring any tragedy, more times than not, if you have a baby, the baby's going to live a long, healthy life. Make sense? Let's rewind again then. Oh, going the wrong way. Rewind. Death rate. The darker the color, the higher the death rate. Okay?
Wait, the next one says something distribution.
Male-female distribution?
Wasn't it age distribution?
Yeah, it's birth death rates, age distribution, male-female distribution, life expectancy.
What's after life expectancy?
We haven't gotten there yet.
Oh.
So this is the death rate. The darker the color, the more deaths there are. Such as Russia's the big one here with 11 and up per 1,000. So per 1,000 people, at least 11 people die per year. Same in Africa. Whereas, like U.S., it's 5 to 6. That's 7 to 8. I wish they had done different colors and different shades of brown.
It's 7 to 8.
7, 8. But not a great example then. Age distribution. This is the median age, the middle age. So the middle age in the U.S. population is 30 to 40. Okay? Whereas in most of Africa, it's 15 to 20. Okay? So the more developed you are, the higher that number is.
So we would already be middle aged if we lived in Africa?
Yeah. Because your life expectancy was so low. Male-female distribution. So blue has more females than males. Pink is more males. Green is pretty even. Gray is no data. There's nothing between developing here. I just kind of like this map. Although it makes more sense if the more females than males would be pink, and the other one would be blue. But Wikipedia.
Also, there's more females in America.
In the U.S., there's more females, but in like China, there's more males. And this is due to the one-child policy, which I'll hit real quick. Basically, for a long time in China, each family could only have one kid to prevent high population growth. So usually if they had a daughter first, they would leave the baby in the forest to die. And they would keep doing that until they had a son. Because sons were more honorable. Yay, China! This is why things aren't great. Life expectancy. Darker green, higher life expectancy. Darker red, not as good. For example, I had it and I lost it. Right here, middle Africa. Okay? Life expectancy is under 55. That could be as low as 30. Okay, that's just where the chart ends. Whereas in Canada, it's higher than 82 and a half years. US, it's 77 to 80. But women expected to live longer than men because men do dumb things.
I'm just surprised.
Also, usually women take better care of themselves health-wise than men do. You know,
I
women get sick, they say, okay, I need to go to the doctor. Men get sick, oh, I'm fine. And then you get the corona.
Like, there's so many things that can kill you in Australia, but yet it has the highest life expectancy.
That's because they know not to poke the things that kill you in Australia.
I don't
Whereas if America went to Australia, they'd say, ooh, koala, and it rips your face off. Australia, they're like, oh, hey, it's a koala, we should probably leave it alone.
Wait, a koala can rip your face off?
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Gosh.
They are very mean little things.
They look super cute.
Anyway,
The parks.
we're going to keep rolling with the infant mortality rate. Okay? This is the number of babies that die at birth or within the first year, and this is, once again, usually per 1,000. Most of these are per 1,000% of the people in the population. Urban and rural distributions, number of people that live in the country versus the city. GDP is the total of all goods and services produced in a country in 1 year. Education, this difference between populations, it can be affected due to like availability of schools, access to technology, things like that. Okay? Education differs. Any questions on any of these four?
Did we put something after GDP?
Not right now.
Okay.
I mean, there is a GDP per capita, but we're not talking about it just yet. Good. And like usual, you know, if you miss something, whatever, the key to the notes is on there, so you can get it straightened out. We already talked about infant mortality rate. It's sad. I don't want to talk about it again. So, with this map, this is a cool map. Gray is on average there are no people per square kilometer. And the darker the color, the more people per square kilometer. So the darker the color are those, like, if it's black or dark purple or whatever that is that a city or is that countryside? There's 20,000 people per square kilometer.
I mean,
City. Now if there's no people, city or country? Country. So like look at the United States. Most of the population is over here east of the Mississippi and then on the west coast. There's little areas but not much. But if you go to Europe, there's no countryside left. Make sense? Canada's just empty. Now this is GDP per capita, okay? Basically this is how much money the average family makes per year. So in the US, 60,000 or more. Canada, that's 40,000 to 50,000. Middle of Africa, that's less than 1,000. Okay. Education. Couldn't find a good map on education, so this is the best I could. The darker it is, it's average years of schooling. So like US and Canada, it's more than 12, whereas some areas in Africa, it's less than 4, and then there's other ones that have no data. It's kind of depends. Last three characteristics. Ethnicity is a category of people who identify with each other based on the belief of common descent. So like if you're Irish, ethnically Irish, or things like that. Language, that one's common sense. Okay? I'm not going into detail on language. Religion, same thing. Y'all know what language is, y'all know what religion is. It's just different ways you can look at human populations.
Does that say Nigeria? Countries wide?
Yeah, Nigeria's has over 200 spoken languages.
Okay, got it.
Wow. Maps. More maps. These are ethnicities. I'm not going to try to explain it. I just think it's a cool looking map. For example, the yellow is varying Asian ethnicities. Blue is more like European. The greens are African. The orangey, that's closer to like Arab, Persian descent. I don't know what that sound was. Figure it out later. Here's religion. So the red is varying parts of Christianity. Green is different parts of Islam. Purple is different parts of Buddhism. Then Hinduism is yellow. Judaism is blue, and that is literally just Israel. Brown is different kinds of like folk religions, and gray is no religion.
Wow, there's no religion in like African, so. I get the
Asia.
Yeah, I mean right there.
That's because the Soviet Union was like state-sponsored atheism
So they don't believe in anything.
at that point, but that's kind of backed off when the Soviet Union fell. Mainly this is great because there's not a lot of people in Siberia. China's the same kind of thing. It's state-sponsored atheism. Same with North Korea. Like over here, this is just not a lot of people. Here's all the different languages. I'm not even going to try to explain that one. That's just another really cool looking map. Okay, factors that influence population growth rates. I'm going to try to speed this up a little bit. Okay? So if you missed something, the key's on there. Got a question, please stop me. So modern medicine and hygiene will cause the population to grow because babies get regular shots. Now let me take a time out real quick. Please, for the love of all that is holy, when you guys eventually have children down the road, if you choose not to have children, that's fine. If you choose to have children, vaccinate your kids. Okay? The government's not trying to track you. The government's not trying to kill you. Vaccinate your children so they don't die. Fair enough? Okay? When the vaccine for COVID comes out, get your coronavirus vaccine like you do your flu shot. The government's not trying to track you. They're not trying to kill you. They're trying to keep everyone healthy. Fair enough? Getting off my soapbox about vaccines right now. That might come back later. Who knows? People have regular health care. There are no epidemics such as smallpox because there was a smallpox vaccine and we eradicated the disease off the face of the earth. People got their vaccines. The disease doesn't exist anymore. Just saying. Education. Population will decrease in countries with many educated people because people focus on careers and decide not to have as many children. Fewer people are farming, so there's no need to have a ton of kids. You don't need a ton of kids to work the farm. Industrialization and urbanization, population growth will decrease as the country becomes more developed. Okay? Economic development, higher economic development causes a lower population growth rate. Government policy, this is that one-child policy. Okay? I explained that already, so I'm not going to do it again. Role of women in society. Countries with low population growth rates have more women working in the labor force. Countries where women are expected to stay home, be housewives, take care of the home and the children, will have higher population growth rates because they have more children. Does that make sense? Migration, cultural diffusion. Key terms here. I will wait a second and let y'all get these copied down. These are the key terms that I will be saying quite a few times. Migration is a permanent move to a new location. Immigration is migration to a new location. Immigration with an E is migration from a location. Push factors induce people to leave. Pull factors induce people to come to the place. Okay, does that make sense? So push, you're pushing away. Pulling, you're pulling them to you. Does that make sense to everybody? Good. But I'll wait a second. So migrations occur because of social, economic, political, and environmental factors. They influence cultural landscapes, modern transportation and communication encourage higher levels of cultural interaction, and various technological and digital platforms increase the capacity for cultural diffusion, such as Coca-Cola and all the different languages. Because the Americans spread the culture throughout the world, or something like that. By the way, I don't know if I mentioned this yesterday. Last day to turn in missing or late work is the 9th. Okay? Push factors, things that cause people to leave. Overpopulation. If there's too many people, people will leave. Like, have you guys ever walked into like you go to the mall or something, you walk into a store and it's just packed, and you're like, that's too many people, I'm not going to go in that store. Same thing here. There's too many people, I'm going to leave. Religious persecution. People can't worship as they please, so they leave. Okay? For example, ISIS. There were a ton of people who left when ISIS started taking over in the Middle East because they were being killed for being Christian or different types of Islam or things like that. Lack of job opportunities. Vast majority of people leave Latin America, Africa, and Asia because there's no jobs there. They're looking for work, looking for ways to support their family.
What was four of the places?
Latin America, Africa, and Asia. They leave due to agricultural decline. This means a person can't grow as much food on the same amount of land as they once could. Over time, if you keep farming on the same area of land and not rotating crops, things like that, it becomes less fertile and you can't grow crops anymore. Conflict. People flee from wars. Okay, these people are known as refugees. Political persecution means that people are punished when they disagree with the government. This happens in dictatorships, communist countries. A lot of time, even today, this is happening in China. This picture is from last year in Hong Kong. Okay? The Hong Kong people protesting for freedom and the Chinese government stomping down on them. These protests are still occurring today, even with the pandemic. Natural hazards such as droughts, floods, famines, volcanic eruptions, earthquakes, tsunamis, things like that. Limits on personal freedom. This comes back to communism, okay? Some areas, people can't listen to certain music, watch certain TV shows, or say bad things about the government because the government doesn't let them. This is China, okay? Communist China. You talk bad about the Chinese government, you get sent off to a labor camp. I mean, China is literally running a genocide right now. They're killing Chinese Muslims. They have concentration camps set up. And no one cares because it's China. Okay? I mean, honestly, if I had more than 13 subscribers on YouTube where I'm posting these lesson videos, just talking bad about the Chinese government could get the video taken down. And we're in the United States. Happens all the time. TikTok videos talking bad about China and Hong Kong get taken down. YouTube videos get taken down. Tweets get taken down. The Chinese government has way too much influence. But that's neither here nor there. I need to get off my high horse a little bit, step off my soapbox. So far, you've got my spill about vaccines and my spill about China. Moving on. Environmental degradation, deforestation, desertification, radiation. We've talked about those already when we talked about physical geography. Pull factors. Why do you want to come to a place? Okay? You have religious freedom, or the people there worship like you do. Economic opportunity, there's jobs, there's land. You can talk politics however you want, and you're not going to get killed for it. You're tied ethnically to the region, or your family lives there. Or there's land you can grow fruit on. Migrations bring new languages, new religions, new customs and traditions, and a new cultural landscape. So migrations have effects on regions. Evidence of cultural interaction. You have the diffusion of U.S. culture to other regions, such as this. This is the poster for Avengers Endgame. In China. Okay, American movies are released worldwide. You have popularization of other cultural traditions in the U.S. This is a Chinese New Year parade in New York. Okay? And then you have refugee crises around the world due to conflict and oppression, and they take their culture worldwide. Urban development. Let's talk about cities. Site is the actual location of the city, okay? It is physically where that city is. Situation is a relative location. It is the location of a city with respect to other geographic features, regions, resources, transportation routes. Basically, what's around that city that can help it. Okay? Site is physically where the city is. Situation is what's around the city. Does that make sense? Yes, no, maybe. Okay, for example, site, Elliot is sitting on the third desk back in the second row from the board. Okay? Situation, third desk back, second row from the board.
Oh.
Situation, Elliot is sitting behind diagonally from Liana, so if he wanted to, he could copy her work because he can see her computer. Whatever. Does that make sense? That's site versus situation. So examples of sites. You have harbor sites. These are located on the coast and good for trade. This is such as New York. Let's see. New York and Istanbul. Okay? Island sites are good for trade or defense, such as Hong Kong. This is Singapore. And then you got Paris. And let's talk about Paris a second. Because technically Paris is an island city, even though it's in the middle of Europe. Because the Ile de la Cité is one of the two remaining natural river islands within the Seine River in Paris. This is the center of Paris, and this is where the medieval city was founded. So when Paris was founded, it was an island in the middle of a river. Does that make sense? Even though today it's spread out, it's still technically considered an island city because that's where it was founded. Y'all understand that? Okay. You will have a question about that on your test. You gotta understand that Paris is an island city. Fall line sites, this is developed because of manufacturing and transportation centers, because falling water provides mechanical energy for powering equipment. So factories, trains, things like that. Big one here is Richmond. Okay, Richmond, Virginia. So there's a picture of Richmond. One of these four cities is not like the others. New York, major city. Paris, major city. Singapore, major city. Richmond. But because it's a Virginia class, we have to talk about Virginia City, I guess. So, this is what I'm talking about. This is the Isla de la City. And I'm probably mispronouncing that, but whatever. See how this is an island in the river? Okay, this was the center of medieval Paris. You have confluence sites. This is where two rivers come together, such as Khartoum in the Sudan, and then Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. This is Pittsburgh. I mean, look at that. You can see the difference between the two rivers and where they meet. Okay, you can see the difference in the color of the two rivers. Hilltop sites provide protection from invaders. This is such as Rome, Athens, Jerusalem. This is Jerusalem. Oasis sites are a fertile area in a desert or a semi-desert environment, such as Damascus, Syria. And then you have areas where the river's narrow, and this is London and Quebec. Situation, these are connections. Baghdad grew up because of the command of the land between the Tigris and Euphrates rivers. Istanbul became big because of command of the straits and the land bridge to Europe. And then you have areas that are focal points of pilgrimage, such as Mecca, okay? Mecca in Saudi Arabia, and Varanasi in India, okay? These are for religious pilgrimages. I knew I'd get the word. Just had to take a second. You have areas that are supply stations for ships, such as Cape Town, South Africa. This is literally the southern tip of Africa. So they stop in Cape Town and resupply for the journey up the other coast. The Hawaiian Islands as a stop, going across the Pacific. Then you had areas that grew up along the railways, such as the Trans-Siberian Railway in Russia, with, I'm going to butcher these, but I'm going to attempt them. Novosibirsk. Oh yeah, that was bad. And I'm not even going to attempt that. Two very Russian cities. And then you got Omaha, Nebraska. Okay, grew up along the U.S. Transcontinental Railroad. Then you had cities that grew up along trade routes, such as Xi'an, China, Timbuktu in Mali, and Samarkand, Uzbekistan. Towns and cities. The functions of towns and cities change over time. So functions include security and defense, religious centers, trade centers, government administration, manufacturing centers, service centers, education centers. Did I use this as an excuse to include a picture of Charlotte on the slideshow? Yes. Yes, I did. Because Charlotte grew up into a trade center, okay? It's a huge business. There's a ton of banks that are headquartered in Charlotte. Functions changing over time. Rio de Janeiro, Brazil. It was the capital of Brazil until they moved it to Brasilia. Okay? This was the capital, then they moved it. Pittsburgh. It started as a defensive city, then became steel manufacturing, and then now it's shifted to diverse services, including financial and light manufacturing. New York was originally coastal and transatlantic trade. Traded from the Great Lakes via the Erie Canal, and now it's a worldwide trade and financial center. And then you have cities that, instead of growing, disappear. And these are mining towns, ghost towns. Once the resources are gone, the cities leave. That makes sense. Okay, for example, I'm sitting here teaching. There's 3 of you. If the 3 of you aren't here, I'm not going to be standing here teaching. You guys disappear, I'm going to work on something else. Urban areas. Urban populations exercise powerful influences shaping the world's cultural, political, and economic ideas and systems. Urban development may lead to problems related to human mobility, social structure, and the environment. Let's talk about the environment for a second. Because one of them, where are you? Pollution. We'll come back to it. Okay, influences of urban areas on their regions. You have nation building. Building monuments and symbols such as the Seattle Space Needle. Okay? Transportation and communication hubs, magnets for migration. You have a more, would I be wrong in saying that Charlotte, North Carolina has a more diverse population than Hillsville? There's more religions, ethnicities, things like that than Hillsville. Yes, no? Yeah. Bigger city, people migrate to Charlotte. They're not going to migrate to Hillsville. You have new ideas and technologies, more diversity, which leads to creativity. Universities and educational opportunities, corporate headquarters, regional offices, and media centers. Problems, transportation issues. You have rich and poor neighborhoods existing in different areas. They isolate from each other. You have issues providing essential services, water, sewage, electricity, schools, clinics, things like that. This is mainly for cities in Latin America, Africa, and Asia, but you have a pull on these services here. Air, water, and noise pollution. Does that look like a nice city? Leona, Elliott. Does that look like a nice city? Would you want to go live there? Do you think you'd be able to breathe? Same city. It's Los Angeles. This is Los Angeles after about halfway through the COVID lockdowns,
I didn't see that, I didn't know there
I
was.
still don't wanna live there.
where no one could go to work or anything. Does that look less polluted?
Yes.
There weren't as many cars. That's normal Los Angeles. You can't even see the mountain because of the pollution.
That's weird.
Sprawl results in the conversion of agricultural land to urban areas. This is largely in the United States. You don't have farms near big cities. And in developing countries, major cities are connected more to regions outside the country than to regions within the country. There you go. Population geography. Same as always, you got any questions, any concerns, let me know. Shoot me an email, leave a comment, whatever. You have vocab, you have notes, you have test review already up. Your vocab quiz will go live tomorrow. Test will go live on Friday. If any of you virtual students need a Google Meet or anything during tutoring hours, that's 3:30 to 6 on Tuesdays and Thursdays. Just let me know ahead of time so I can get you scheduled. B-Day kids, I don't know why you're watching this because we're going to go over it on Thursday, but same thing. If you want to stay for tutoring, let me know so I can get you on the schedule for Thursday. Have any questions? Let me know. I'll talk to you guys later.